everyone, welcome to week 1. So this week we're going to be talking about the NASW Code of Ethics. We're also going to be talking about the strengths-based generalist practice, and we're going to be talking about the helping relationship with families, groups, and clients individually. So I want to start by talking about the NASW Code of Ethics. It's the ethical principle that guides the social workers through their practice, and unfortunately throughout your practice you may encounter some ethical issues and ethical dilemmas that you're going to be dealing with within the organization that you're working with, as well as with an individual client, maybe an individual family, whether it's a boundary that's crossed or they're asking you to do something that is unethical. So the core principles of the NASW Code of Ethics is social justice, service, dignity and worth of a person, the importance of human relationship, integrity, and competence. And what I really want you to comment on in your post this week is talking about which one means the most to you, because I want you to be able to explore within yourself which social work principle touches you the most and why, so that you can be able to implement that in your daily social work practice. Sorry guys. One thing I also wanted to bring up is generalist practice. So generalist practice is, through the individual, family, group, community, and organization, the improving them and furthering goals of social justice. Now, there's many different types of generalist practice, including micro and macro. So micro is more individual, family, group. The purpose is more of enhancing functioning, of empowerment. You can do interventions such as individual therapy, case management, assessments, intake, advocacy. Those are all more of a micro level of generalist social work practice. And macro is more organizational, community, state. So it's more like committees, task force, policy changers for improving systems as a whole, and developing new programs, increasing awareness through advocacy. So I really want you guys to start thinking about what type of social work it is that you feel like you're more drawn to, whether it's the micro level of, being more individual based and family and group based, or more macro, which is more, organizational and policy changes and advocacy changes for bigger groups and larger groups. So I really want you to think about that in your post this week, and I want you to be able to do one discussion post at least on where you feel like you're leaning more towards, whether a micro level and a macro level, and why. The next thing I really want to talk about is the use of self, and that refers to the social worker's interpersonal skills and interactions of the client system. Social workers intervene with the helping relationship, and research will tell you that the strongest predictor of client change is the helping relationship that we develop with patients. Social workers use ourselves to communicate understanding, sensitivity, hopefulness, support, and confidence. And those are some things they may not be getting in their everyday environment that they're in. So the helping relationship that we create with them will help us create this bond that helps them continue to come and continue to receive treatment so they can enhance themselves. So some types of clients that you may encounter during your field placement next semesters or currently now is, you'll have voluntary patients. And those are the types of patients that are willing to come to you. They decided on their own that they need social work assistance. They need some guidance. They're going through a hard time in their life. They're dealing with addiction, depression, anxiety, a divorce, anything that's going on severely in their life. They're a voluntary client because they chose to come there. You're also going to deal sometimes with involuntary clients, and those involuntary clients are people who are mandated by the justice system, such as a mental health court, their probation officer, a judge, all mandated at this time that they need to do treatment. Otherwise, they're going to face some serious legal charges. So you may encounter some people who have unfortunately been in domestic violence. They maybe have DUIs and they need to go through, therapy for that. Maybe anger problems as well, assault. So you're going to be seeing some of those patients as well who are involuntary to treatment. And those are sometimes some patients that are difficult to deal with because a lot of them don't believe that they need help, but they're there just because of the fact that somebody told them to be there. Which brings me on to my next client that you're going to see is the non-voluntary client. So those are people that are going to go and seek out help, but only because a family member told them to or a friend told them to. These are some situations where people can give them ultimatums, such as, you either go to treatment or I'm leaving you, or, you better get it together, or, so-and-so isn't going to talk to you anymore. So those are some situations where you're going to encounter the non-voluntary patient. So those are things that can be really difficult to work with a client on, because of the fact that they're only there because they also think that, if I do this, my wife or my husband is going to feel better. But sometimes they don't truly engage with you because they only think that it's the wife or the husband's ideation, that's why. So that's why the helping relationship is so important, because once we form that bond with them, we're able to move forward. A lot of these clients that you're going to be experiencing are going to be going through the stages of change, which I'm sure you are aware of, which is definitely involved in the helping process. And we aid clients in finding exactly where they are in the stages of change and allowing them to progress through them. So obviously the pre-contemplation, where they have no intent to change, they just, like I said earlier, they're there because they have to be there. Then you're in contemplation, where they're aware of their problem, they're acknowledging it, but they're thinking about changing. At that point, their defense mechanisms are going up and they're thinking it's going to be too hard to change. Then some will be in the preparation stage, where once again, they've made it aware to themselves that there's a problem that they want to address. And they're motivated at that point. They're motivated to get things started for themselves. Maybe they started making appointments. They started telling their family they're going to get treatment. And then there's the action stage, which is where they'll be sometimes with you. At some points you're going to have clients who are sitting, in your room with you conducting therapy, and they're going to be in the pre-contemplation stage. And then you're going to have clients that are there with you in the action stage. So I want you to start to think about how you're going to be able to intervene with all different types of clients like that. One thing I also wanted to touch on is that some clients are going to come to you and think that, you are the miracle social worker, that you are going to magically solve all of their problems. All they have to do is sit there and listen, and you're going to give them the magic that they've been missing in their entire life. So that's something, also that we have to battle as social workers, helping them understand that this is a two-way street, that you sitting there in your organization or as an individual are not going to be able to assist them in solving all of their life problems, that they're going to have to work with you to dig deep emotionally in order to work on what's really going on and how you can truly help them. One thing I also wanted to bring up is the self-awareness for yourself and cross-cultural practice. As social workers, we're going to be seeing people throughout so many ethnicities and so many different cultures, from different countries, from different backgrounds. And we as social workers need to be very aware of our own culture and our own heritage to increase our comfort level when we work with other people who are not, do not have the same culture and ethnicity that we do. In working with different cultures and ethnic backgrounds, as social workers, if we're not aware, we can impose our own ethnic and cultural values onto our client. And that can turn into a non-working and non-healthy helping relationship, as all we're doing is imposing how we feel and what we think onto the client, who is trying to explain to us why they're having hardships, and all we're doing is pushing ourselves onto them. So I challenge you to really think about your own cultural and ethnic background as well, and making sure that you feel truly confident in knowing your values and your ethnic background, so that when you do have someone of a different culture, that it doesn't challenge you. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the strengths-based practice. So strengths-based basically emphasizes the client's self-determination and strengths. It's a view of the client as a resourceful and resilient within themselves. So pulling out their internal strengths as to what they didn't know they had is the point of strengths-based practice, because a lot of patients that come to you, for example, the best types of patients that strengths-based works with are patients who have poor self-esteem, people who have abusive relationships, or they have abuse in their past, such as physical, emotional abuse. At that point, they don't feel like they have much in their life. They feel like they have no worth. They feel like they have no strength. So the point of the strengths base is to really pull out what they don't know. And sometimes it's just as little as acknowledging the fact that they come to their appointment every week. That's a strength within itself. And most people sometimes forget that. So I think that we really need to acknowledge the little things for them, because strengths-based is really pulling out exactly what that client is. And sometimes if we go too big too fast, we're going to lose them. So we have to start really small with, I think it's really admirable of you that you come every week and you talk about how you feel. That's a big strength that you have. Showing them right then and there that that's a strength that you admire will get them talking even more, and then you're going to be able to show them more strengths that they didn't even know they had. One of the last things I want to talk about is measuring that progress that we've been talking about. So in generalist practice, there will be some things that you can measure the progress of a client with, such as your own progress notes. You'll be able to read through, the first session that you had or your first intake or encounter, compared to your last one, and see how the client has progressed and is functioning now at that level. Some other ways that you can also measure that is by surveys, such as rating scales. But you do want to make sure that it is individualized to that client. If a client is having issues with anxiety, you don't want to be giving them a rating scale based on depression and how they're feeling about their anger. So you really want to make sure that the scale is based on exactly what your client came to you for, and it's addressing exactly what the client came for. So, as I stated, you don't want to be giving them a survey that doesn't apply to them, because that's not going to help you in measuring them. So just making sure that you have exactly what you need. So this was a general overview of week 1. As a reminder, I'd like you to post in the discussion regarding the NASW code that you found most connected with and why, and what level of social work you connected with as to micro or macro, and where you feel yourself in the future, and also any other relevant part that stood out to you during these readings this week. I hope this was helpful for week 1. If you should have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. I'll be happy to answer it. I hope everyone has a great week. Thank you.